Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I am Usman Upworkwala. I am student of Rehan School, Krongi campus. And today we have a very great and honorable guest whose name is Ulin. So today we try to know about him. So let's start our interview without any waste of time. So hi Ren, how are you?
I'm doing great, Usman. How are you? Good evening to you. It's morning here in Los Angeles.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you that you come in my show and give me your valuable time.
Of course, my pleasure.
Okay. And so before moving on questions, I want that you introduce yourself to my audience.
Of course. My name is Dan Ulin. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Elite Student Coach. It's based here in Los Angeles, but I work all over the world. And I empower exceptional kids, much like Usman and the other kids at the Rehan School. Although these are kids who want to go to college. So I empower exceptional college-bound kids to go from exceptional to unstoppable. College is really the byproduct of my program, and along the way, I teach them invaluable skills such as how to communicate like an expert. I teach them the art of entrepreneurship, and I mentor them on how to mentor others. All of these skills are really important in life, and they're monetizable, and they're also AI proof. That's what I do.
Okay, good. So can you tell us about your background and what inspired you to start Elite Student Coach?
I sure can. So my wife and I live here in Hollywood, California, but I was born in Boston on the other side of the country. And I actually started working with kids when I was a kid. When I was 12 years old, I think, or when I was 13, I, uh, I was teaching kids, I guess about your age, maybe 10 or 11 years old, 9, 10, 11 years old, card magic. One of my two hobbies throughout my life was close-up magic, card magic, coins, rope, things like that. And I was doing that in the Boston evening, creative arts program for the schools. So I got a taste of teaching very early on, and I loved it. I loved working with others. And along the way, throughout high school and throughout college, whenever I could find an opportunity to teach and work with other kids, I did that. And that ended up taking me after college to Japan, where I ended up on what was supposed to be a 3 month research fellowship, spending 4 years in Japan, doing initially a research fellowship with the Japanese government and Panasonic, developing English language teaching materials for the Japanese high school system. And I ended up, after 2 years in Osaka, living in Tokyo for 2 years, doing marketing for a giant Japanese trading company, and moving to Europe, coming back to the United States to get my MBA at the Wharton School, going back to Europe, and really working all over the world. But even though I moved into marketing and away from teaching, the through line and everything I did was always on education and communications. And I moved back to the States, and I came to Los Angeles a couple of decades ago. And about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I went back for a master's to earn my master's in clinical psychology, and worked only with kids. I thought I would become a psychologist or a therapist. And I earned 3,000 hours. I actually earned 3,500 hours working with teenagers, and decided after that I didn't want to become a psychologist, but I wanted to take the work that I had done working with kids and do what I'm doing now. Go back into working with kids, pull together all the work that I had done over the years in marketing and in mentoring and in communications, and pull it all together in what is now my life's work, in not just helping kids, crush it in school, but in school and work and life. And that extends beyond the work that I'm doing just with kids who are going to colleges and graduate schools in the United States and other countries. I'm fortunate enough, I think you know this. I'll be in 6 days. I'll be coming to Karachi and doing some work with you and your fellow classmates at the Rehan School. And I met some of you a couple of months ago at Future Fest in Lahore. But I'm really, really excited and very honored to be on this journey with you, and really thrilled to be coming to Karachi. So
Yes, inshallah. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, how do you approach mentoring and coaching students to achieve their academic goals?
It's a great question. Mentoring is it's kind of an old school thing. In the United States, and I think even in your country, but really around the world, mentoring is the kind of thing that my grandfather and my father had. And there's one of my heroes in psychology was a guy named Carl Rogers. This was back in the 50s and the 60s, and Carl Rogers said that his secret to being a successful psychologist was holding his patient in unconditional positive regard. So in my case, it's holding my mentees in unconditional positive regard. And what that means is creating a safe space for them to learn and to learn from me, but also to teach me, to talk back with me and talk to me and help me become a better mentor for them. So if you were one of my mentees, I would know that my work was successful if after, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 sessions, you were to say to me, hey, Dan, all that work we've been doing up to now, that's been great. But what you just said, that doesn't apply to me. That won't work for me. That would make me a better mentor because I would then be able to create that feedback loop for you. So although I'm older than you are, you probably noticed that. I, I, there's no monopoly on wisdom. You're just as wise as I am. You're probably wiser. And in some ways, and when you give me that lesson, it makes me a better mentor for you. And the reason that that's important is that you are going to go on and mentor other people. It's a pay it forward mentoring process. So by mentoring you and you, and by extension, all the other people I mentor, teaching me how to become a better mentor for them along the way, this creates this pay it forward wave, which is a beautiful thing. So that's the process that I do. I also try and collapse the many decades of work that I have along the way. I believe that what we call mistakes can often be reframed as learning opportunities. And I've said this before in some of the other interviews I've had with the wonderful members of the Rehan School. But we're taught that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, from A to B. But it's not. It's actually when you fold space, when you compress space. So if I am able to, when I'm working with younger people, help them skip what took me 1 or 2 years or 1 or 2 decades, and get there faster, that's an incredible thing for me to be able to do. And that, so let's say, um, like learning the art of writing. I loved writing. Writing was always something that came easily to me and that I loved. But over the years, I've learned techniques and I've learned things that have made me a better writer. Okay, so in working with my mentees, I try and give them the benefit of those years and collapse that down so that they can become better, more confident writers much earlier in life than I was. That's a good example.
Good, amazing answer. So, can you share a success story from your coaching experience that stands out to you?
Absolutely. There are a lot of them. I'll share one very recent from a very recent mentee. So I'm working with a young lady here in the United States who was trying to raise money for the homeless population in one of the states, and she was unclear as to how she wanted to go about doing it. She wanted to raise money to help the homeless people in Texas, in a city in Texas. And she had a specific amount of money in mind. She had $3,000 in mind, which is a lot of money, and she'd never raised money before. Nor did she have a specific goal in mind. She said she wanted to raise awareness for the homeless population. So what I did with her was to say, let's create something very specific with that. Let's lean into that, because if you try to ask people for money to raise awareness, they won't be able to respond. But let's get a specific number. So in the Dallas area, how many homeless, for example, how many homeless mothers are there? And we landed on a number. I think it was like 30. No, I think it was like 9,200 homeless mothers I'm changing the city. It wasn't Dallas. It was another city, but I'm protecting the anonymity of my mentee. But it was something like 9,200 homeless mothers. Okay, now that's identifying homeless mothers. That's a very specific target. And by asking for a very specific amount of money, $100, which is a lot of money in your country, and even in the United States is a lot of money, but she lives in a wealthy community. So asking for $100 donation and saying to the people from whom she was asking the money, that $100 is going to enable that homeless mother to keep herself and her children clean and disease free for 6 months. She was asking for something very specific. So she already had a piece of copy written, in other words, a sheet of paper that was asking for the money. I helped to rearrange that so that it was much cleaner and to the point. And she went from zero to raising, I think she exceeded her limit. I think she raised $4,200 in just over 2 days. I think in 49 hours she raised that. So from the time she had the idea to the time that we talked to the time that she actually had those kits in the hands of homeless mothers was about 4 days. It was a miracle. It was a miracle. And I just use that as an example because people have a lot of power. Kids have a lot of power. They just don't know it. And my job is to help them unlock that power along the way. So that's one example.
Good example. And so, how do you stay updated with the latest trends and the challenges in education to better assist your students?
Sure. Usman, these are great questions. You're an excellent interviewer. I'm just going to say that. Um, I read a lot. I read a lot, and for one thing, so I read articles about education. I read articles about trends. So here in the United States, for example, all of the schools, all of the colleges and the universities that are accepting undergraduates that accept undergraduates for the fall semester, in other words, for this coming September, have finally released their acceptances. And there's a lot of data that comes out of that. Which schools, accepted students from these states, and how many students got into each one. So there's a lot of data that falls out of that. All of the mentees with whom I work were fortunate enough to get into their first or second choices. I'm very, very proud of them. And I also speak with a lot of admissions officers. I speak with a lot of parents. I do a lot of research into trends. What are the majors in which people are getting hired in? So there's just a lot of research that goes into it. And I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of students. I talk to a lot of kids who are on campuses. This is my life's work. I love it. So it's a question of just staying in the market. It's a really dynamically changing field. And as I expand into other countries, as I expand into Pakistan and Singapore and Japan is really kind of a second home. I lived there for a long time. And other countries, I'm lucky enough as an American to have lived in 6 countries and worked now I think I've worked in 39 countries. It's a global war. We live on a little blue planet in the middle of space, but there's a lot of students coming here to the United States from all over the world. And I also work with schools in other countries as well. I'm going to be looking at some schools in Pakistan, in fact. So part of it is staying on top of the trends from students coming out of great schools in Pakistan, like the Rayhan School. Uh, so I'm talking to people all the time. You know, uh, it's important. It's important. Things are changing all the time, and they're changing very quickly.
Okay, so what advice would you give to students who are struggling academically or are feeling overwhelmed?
Another great question. I guess the best advice I would have, sort of two pieces of advice. The first would be, in colloquial English, chunk it down, break big things into small pieces. So let's say that um, you're a teenager and you're struggling in math. Okay. So rather than look at I'm struggling at math as sort of the metaphor being this big mountain in front of you, what is it you're struggling with? Are you struggling with the idea that I, as a student, am just not good at math, or is there a particular part that you're struggling with? Maybe you're good at geometry, but you're not good at algebra. Or were you told early on in life you're just not good at math? I was told early on in life, Dan, you're not good at math. I remember I was in second grade and learned many, many years later that I was very good at math. When we're told as kids that we're not good at something, we grow up to believe that. The other side is that when we're told we're very good at something as kids, we very often grow up to believe that, and that can be very powerful. So I would break that into smaller parts. So if you're struggling academically, let's say that you're having trouble in history. Are you having trouble in history because you can't remember dates? Well, work on that piece of it. Break it down into smaller pieces. And this is true of anything. Break a big problem down into smaller pieces. That's one. The second piece of advice would be lean into the things that terrify you the most. Now, this is not popular advice. I know parents don't love to hear this and kids don't like to hear this, but I'll give you an example. A lot of kids don't like to write anymore. And I think this tracks with the fact that kids don't like to read as much anymore. And I don't mean to sound like, the old man on the lawn, kids these days, but when I grew up, I read all the time. I still read all the time. I try and read 2-3 books a week. But reading is just not as popular as it used to be. We're more attached to digital media than we were before. There's still some kids who read, but I believe that great readers make great writers. So in generally speaking, kids don't like to write as much as they did. But the truth is that writing is actually very easy. If you can speak, you can write. But it's often very terrifying for kids. There's a term for it: graphophobia, fear of writing. And the way that I work with kids who are my mentees and other kids along the way, because I work with other kids, is I'll tell them, okay, instead of writing, just tell me what it is that you want to say. So for college essays, for example, if kids are having trouble getting started with their college essay, I will just interview them like you are interviewing me now. I'll interview them and say, let's pretend that I'm an admissions officer on a college campus and I run into you and I tell you, you don't have to write the essay. Just tell me what you want to say. They'll tell me what they want to say. We'll look at the interview. We'll write that down, and that's a great starting point. In other words, we reframe something that's very difficult as something that's very easy, and we try something. I believe that, we should just constantly be reinventing things. Ask ourselves, what if we tried this? What if we tried that? There's always another way. There's always a way to solve a problem. We just have to look at things from a different way. So those would be my 2 pieces of advice.
Amazing advice you give to my audience. And so, how do you envision the future of elite students, coach, and your impact on student success?
Well, I mentioned it before. I'm so proud. Every kid with whom I've worked since I started as lead student coach about 10 years ago, but although I've been doing this kind of work for a long time, has been admitted to his or her first or second, in one case, third choice of schools, of top schools. And when I say top schools, I don't necessarily mean Ivy League schools. I define a great school as a school that's right for the kid. So if a parent comes to me and says, life as we know it will be over if our child doesn't get into UCLA or the Wharton School where I went for my MBA, then I'm not the right mentor for them. I don't think that we need to be attached to the result. Those are great schools, and it may be that is the right school for that child. Very often it's not. It's really all about fit. And I believe it's about not where you go, it's how you show up where you go. I think this is true in everything in life. I think this is true about school, in work, in relationships, in family. And so I'm so proud of the kids with whom I've worked. It's not that I have gotten them into these schools. It's that it's a by application only program. It's not that I've empowered them I've empowered them to find success within themselves. But when kids come into my program, it's that I see such incredible promise in them. And I think that gives them the rocket fuel such that they are able to gain admission to such incredible schools. So this year, I'm just so incredibly proud of the kids with whom I work, as I've been every year. They're crushing it, and they have incredibly bright futures. And to answer your question more directly, my business changes every day. I learn more every day in talking with the kids and with the parents and with you guys from the Rehan School. I think this is my, 10th interview. I learn every time I have these interactions. This makes me a better mentor. I'm not a young guy. I'm not an old guy, but I'm not a young guy. And the other day, one of my classmates from graduate school asked me, hey, Dan, when are you going to retire? I'm never going to retire. It's not because of the money. I love what I do. Why would I ever retire? I'm having more fun now than I ever had in my life. And I have more fun every single day. And one of the reasons I have so much fun is that every day I wake up, like I did a little while ago before I got in this interview, and I realize I got more to learn today. There's more for me to learn. I'm learning as I'm on this interview with you. You are teaching me more about how to become a better mentor, man. Yeah. And so that's so exciting for me because you're going to go out into the world. I learned from my mentors, my grandfather, my late father, my mom, who's still with us in Boston. Um, there's a saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants. I stand on their shoulders. They were giants. My mentees stand on my shoulders. Who's going to stand on their shoulders? So who's going to stand on your shoulders, Usman, and who's going to stand on their shoulders? It's a beautiful model, right? Because you're a young man, but in 10 years, you could have mentees and other mentees and mentees. You could and you will impact hundreds and hundreds of lives. And by the time you're my age, it seems impossibly far away, but it will happen. You can have impacted hundreds of thousands of lives. That's a huge and very beautiful model. And I think that money and success, financial success, swim in the wake of empowering other people to achieve great things. Um, and every kid I've met from the Rayhan School is already doing that. It's such a fantastic model. I haven't met Rayhan in person. We've talked a lot, but I'm so excited about coming to Pakistan. This will be my second time in Pakistan. I had never been there before January, and I've been very open about this. I just fell in love. I fell in love with that country. Everything about it, the people, the food. Oh my gosh, the food's incredible. Just everything about it, and it's exciting, and it's because we just have these great conversations like we're having right now. So that was a very long answer to your question.
Okay, so which thing you like most in Pakistan?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I didn't understand your question. Can you say it again?
Which thing you mostly like in Pakistan?
Oh, which things do I most like? Oh, that's a tough question because I've only been there once and I was only in Lahore. Uh, I have to say the people. I mean, is it a beautiful country? It's a stunning country. The food, yeah, absolutely fantastic. But the people are unbelievably friendly. They're The hospitality is incredible. Everybody smiles all the time. Now, maybe they're just smiling when I turn away. Maybe they're not smiling. I don't know, but everybody is smiling. Everybody seems to lean into life with great zest and great. I don't know any other way to put it. Everybody there is giving life 150%, and I just don't see that everywhere. And in a country in which some people have resources and a lot of people don't have resources, that's quite something to see. And Pakistan's changing so fast. The average age in Pakistan, as I understand it, is 23. That's a very young average age. So your country is poised for just some incredibly exciting things. And to be even a tiny, tiny part of that, coming in, and I'm so honored to be asked to come in, and I don't know what I'm going to do next week. Help in some small way. To be even helping in a tiny, tiny way, I feel so honored and excited. And part of it is that I don't know what we're going to do. I just know that whatever we're going to do, it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the answer to your question. There's a lot of fun and there's a lot of work, and work and fun go hand in hand. That's the thing I love most about Pakistan.
Good, amazing. So, lastly, what advice would you like to give my audience?
It's a tough. I love how the questions come up at the bottom. It's wonderful. Here's the thing, and I said it before. Life is short, and we make mistakes. In my country and a lot of countries, we're taught minimize your mistakes. And yes, there are mistakes that we make. Don't hurt somebody else. Or if you hurt somebody's feelings, say you're sorry. We're going to make mistakes in life. But there are a lot of mistakes that we make that can be reframed and should be reframed. We can prefer, I would prefer to be reframed as learning opportunities. I would prefer not to do that again. Or, look, I say this all the time. Michelangelo did not carve the David the first time he picked up a chisel. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb with his first filament. You got to break a lot of eggs to make an omelet. So you guys are doing fantastic digital marketing. Was the first AI piece of art you created the best? No, it was probably, but there's no such thing as perfect. So one of my mentors has this beautiful saying, you iterate your way to awesome. Nothing's ever perfect. You're constantly reinventing yourself. So lean into the fact that nothing will ever be perfect, and lean into the things that scare you the most. Very often you're going to find the things that scare you the most, whether you're a shy person and you're afraid of having conversations with other people, or whether you don't like writing and you're terrified of doing that, or very often the things that you fear the most are going to be the things that give you the most excitement. And sometimes they're going to be the things that, oddly enough, are the things that you will find are your greatest strengths. That's the advice I have for you this morning. Come back tomorrow morning. I'll probably have some different advice. It changes every day.
Yes. So thanks so much for your valuable time and share this insightful information with me and my audience.
Thank you, Usman. I'm sorry. Was there something you said? I missed the last part of what you said.
Yes.
I couldn't understand the last thing you said. But thank you for having me on your show. And inshallah, we'll meet when I'm in Karachi next week and the week after, and meet you and all of your wonderful classmates at the Rayhan School. And I guess that's bye for now. I hope this was helpful.
Bye. Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.